I will take the next company president. Here, pick up this $1,000 compensation. My best friend Mandy uttered this with a hideous smile I had never seen before. It was clear she was thoroughly mocking me. Beside her, my husband Tyler was grinning foolishly. These two had been betraying me through their affair for a long time. Mandy had stolen Tyler from me simply because he was the son of a major company's president. She always loved money, but I never thought she'd take away a friend's husband. I lost my husband and my best friend all at once. Was I just bad at judging people? Maybe if it were just me, I couldn't have handled this situation. But I have a strong ally. I closed my eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. Opening my eyes, I stared down the two foes before me, signaling my counterattack. My name is Stacy Reed, and I am a 45-year-old part-time housewife. I work at a company while raising my 8-year-old daughter and managing daily household chores. It's not uncommon for women like me to be working. However, I have some differences from ordinary people. Good morning, Stacy. I'm counting on you again today. Good morning, Father. Let's both do our best at work today. I work at a company owned by my father-in-law. A major business with annual revenues of $500 million. He's a medical equipment manufacturer. My husband Tyler is his only son. I met Tyler in college and we started dating after he confessed his feelings for me. You know, I lost my mom early on. My dad raised me on his own but was too busy with work to pay much attention. I like women who are caring, just like you. He told me this a while after we started dating. It was well known among our college peers that Tyler was the son of a major company's president. I never thought I'd end up marrying someone like that. From the outside, I might appear to have it all. But my marriage with Tyler was far from happy. Hey, Tyler, I want to start working. I married Tyler right after graduating from college, but soon found myself with too much free time. I could live without working, but coming from an ordinary family, that life felt unsettling. So, I casually mentioned that I wanted to work. Look, you're the wife of a major company's president's son. If someone like you starts working outside, people might say it's risky for the company. You need to be more aware of that. He said this with a displeased look and refused to let me work. Before we were married, Tyler said he liked women who took care of him. That meant he wanted a convenient woman who would look after him. After we got married, Tyler treated me as if I were a servant. I hated that situation, but my request to work was never granted. My days were increasingly filled with sighs. You seem down, Father. One night, after finishing work, my father-in-law came home late and found me sitting quietly in the corner of the living room, looking downcast. I couldn't help but explain the situation to my father-in-law. I see. I raised him by myself, but couldn't give him much attention. Maybe that's why he turned out a bit spoiled. Sigh. I thought he was too spoiled, but I couldn't say that in front of my father-in-law. I vaguely responded, and he smiled wryly before making a suggestion. If it's all right with you, Stacy, would you like to work at our company? Really? Can I? My father-in-law nodded with a smile at my excited response. He said he would talk to Tyler about it, so I gratefully accepted his offer. Later, I worked at my father-in-law's company and got pregnant with Candace. I had hoped that having a child would bring back the kind of Tyler I knew. But unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. Tyler continued to boss me around as before. In addition to that, my days were busy with childcare, work, and housework. But this lifestyle suited me better than doing nothing. Tyler still wasn't working much, despite being the son of a company president. It seemed he was resting on his laurels. You're working so hard for nothing. It's all pointless effort. He routinely made such sarcastic remarks to me. Recently, Tyler's attitude towards me seemed to be getting worse. My frustration was building up. Tyler has been terrible lately. Just the other day, this happened. That's your husband's fault. My confidant was my friend Mandy. We've been friends since high school, and she always listens to my complaints. Our usual meeting place is the cafe we've been going to since high school. Mandy was my best friend and most important person. It's unforgivable how he treats a hardworking and caring person like you, Stacy. Thank you, Mandy. I smiled wryly as Mandy got angry on my behalf. She continued sipping her usual orange juice. But that's just how he is, isn't it? Huh? Mandy, have you met Tyler before? Mandy looked surprised for a moment but quickly returned to smiling. I met him at the wedding, but it's strange to talk like I know him just from that. I've always heard about him from you, so I've created an image of him in my head. Oh, I see. Sorry, Mandy. I didn't realize I'd been complaining about him so much. It felt like Mandy knew him personally because I had complained about him so much. I reflected on my actions and apologized. Mandy Holmes chuckled wryly and shook her head. No, it's okay. Don't worry about it, Stacy. Hey, do you want some cake? I feel like something sweet. Oh, that sounds good. Even then, I found myself continuing to complain about Tyler. But Mandy didn't get tired of me and kindly empathized with my feelings. Lately, Tyler had been saying many unpleasant things. But thanks to Mandy and my father-in-law, I was somehow getting by each day. However, that routine came to an abrupt end. Father, why? One day, suddenly, my father-in-law fell ill and passed away. While he was hospitalized, I prayed and cared for him intensely. But it seemed my prayers were not answered. He appeared well initially, but he grew weaker as the days passed, and then he was gone. Grandpa. Candace, who adored her grandfather, also looked sad. She had always gone with me to visit him and helped take care of him. As for Tyler, his son. Since you're going to take care of him, I don't need to go, right? He never visited once and showed no signs of sadness even when his father died. I don't get this stuff, so I'll leave it all to you. Moreover, he dumped all the responsibilities, such as funeral arrangements and other procedures, onto me. I managed with the help of my father-in-law's company's lawyer, Lawyer Anderson, and the employees. But I was dumbfounded by Tyler's behavior even at such a time. As his only son, he barely attended the funeral, and afterward, he didn't mourn and continued to come home late. I'm home. That day, too, Tyler came home late, and I looked at him with a resigned expression. It was just when Candace had finished her bath and was getting ready to sleep. His face was flushed, perhaps from drinking somewhere. Dad, you smell like alcohol. Candace, like me, frowned and muttered. Tyler, it's only been half a month since my father-in-law passed away. Where do you go every day? I finally couldn't hold back and asked him, but he just twisted his face in displeasure. Where I go is my business, isn't it? Don't pry into my affairs. You don't have the right to tie me down. Even so, it's only been a short while since father-in-law passed. So, I have to stay home all the time? If I have to be with you making that gloomy face, it'll drive me crazy too. His unreasonable argument made me snap back. You told me to be aware that I am the wife of a major company's president's son. When I wanted to start working. How about you start acting like the son of a president yourself? What will people think if you just wander around outside right after your father has passed? However, mid-sentence, Tyler threw his bag at me. Fortunately, it didn't hit Candace or me and fell to the floor. Tyler glared at me with anger. Don't get cocky just because you're my wife. Next time you say something smart, I won't let it go. He stormed out of the living room with a furious look. Left behind were just Candace and me, stunned. "Mom, are you okay?" Candace, recovering first, looked at me with concern. I snapped out of it and smiled at her. "I'm fine." "I'm sorry, Candace. You had to see that." "Mom, it's not your fault." As she comforted me, I gently hugged my sweet daughter. Without Candace, I might not have been able to cope. Despite also losing her beloved grandfather, she was still throwing kind words my way. Maybe marrying Tyler was a mistake. But becoming family with my father-in-law. And Candace was the treasure I gained from this marriage. A few days later. Sigh. The paperwork was somewhat settling down. And all that was left was the month after my father-in-law's death. It looked like I might have some time, so I was thinking of contacting Mandy to vent. Oh, a call from Tyler. Tyler, who had been out again today, suddenly called. "Hello. What's up? I need to talk. Come to the cafe in front of the station." His commanding tone made me almost sigh out loud. But I thought it would be more trouble to refuse, so I went to the appointed place. "This cafe, it's the one I often use with Mandy, isn't it?" The cafe, a regular spot since our high school days. Was old but offered delicious food and had a calm, stylish atmosphere. It was quite surprising that Tyler, who liked flashy things, knew this place. As I entered, I was about to learn a shocking truth. "What? What did you just say?" As soon as I sat down, Tyler, who was waiting at the back, confronted me with something. "That's why I said we're getting married. I want a divorce from you." Tyler, grinning, was holding a divorce paper. I was shocked not because Tyler wanted a divorce, but because the person he said he was going to marry was sitting next to him. "Sorry, Stacy. I'll take your husband, okay?" Mandy said this with a sarcastic tone. She expertly intertwined her arm with Tyler's. "Tyler's father has passed away, and all the paperwork is done, right? It's a good opportunity to end all the troublesome things. Right, Tyler?" Mandy smiled at him, and Tyler nodded back with a smile. "Since when?" I asked, trying to suppress the trembling in my voice. "Let's see, was it right after Candace was born? I came over to your house. And that's when I met Tyler. He said you weren't taking care of his needs, so he was quite pent up." Mandy spoke with a sneer, revealing a hideous smile I had never seen before. "You should start preparing to leave. Out of pity, I'll let you stay in the house until you're ready to go. I'll be at Mandy's place, so let me know when you're ready." Though I still had questions, the two of them left the cafe quickly after dropping the divorce papers. I exhaled softly as I looked at the divorce papers with only Tyler's part filled out. I carefully folded them and put them into my bag, then I took out my phone to contact someone. A few days later. "Are you ready to leave?" Tyler returned home for the first time in a while. After our last meeting, he had moved into Mandy's place and hadn't returned since. In the meantime, I hurried to make certain preparations and contacted Tyler yesterday. Candace wasn't here right now. I couldn't involve my child in the ugly dispute that was about to unfold. So, this morning, I left her with a close colleague who is also a mother. Candace is very fond of her and gets along well with her child. So I believe she's having a good time right now. It's been a while since I've been in this house. It's always so grand. I can't believe I'll live here now. A plain woman like you doesn't deserve such a house." Mandy was in a good mood next to Tyler. I didn't recall inviting her, but she seemed to have tagged along on her own. Even as she insulted me, she kept a smile on her face. She seemed thrilled about divorcing Tyler and becoming the wife of a company president's son. "Please, have a seat." I led them into the living room, and they looked surprised. What the hell? Don't let strangers into my house. What, you were cheating too? It's the same on both sides, then. In the living room, a serious-looking man in a suit was sitting. He didn't react to their rude comments. Please don't be rude. This man was someone I had invited, definitely not a lover. I took a seat, ignoring their trivial taunts. So? Are you prepared for the divorce? Yes. Here's the divorce papers. As I presented the filled-out divorce papers, both of them grinned. At least you're prepared. Do you know what's going to happen next? You won't be the wife of a company president's son anymore. You'll lose money, a place to live, everything. What's waiting for you after being dumped by Tyler is a bleak future. Mandy spoke triumphantly, but I calmly responded. Mandy, just one question. Why did you cheat with Tyler? That's obvious, isn't it? Tyler is the heir of a big company. Marrying him means I'll never worry about money again. Hearing this, I understood internally. Mandy had always loved money. Even as a student, she would work all the time and her grades suffered. As an adult, I thought she was greedy for money. But she was my best friend, and I never reprimanded her. Looking back, perhaps things might have been different if I had spoken up then. But it was too late for everything now. Hearing Mandy's words, Tyler shrugged exaggeratedly and wrapped his arm around her waist. Hey. You're just after my money, huh? Oh, I do love you. Just as much as I love your money. Mandy let out a vulgar laugh, turned to me again, and pulled a bundle of bills from her bag, throwing it in front of me. I will take the next company president. Here, pick up this $1,000 compensation. You'll be penniless once you divorce him, so I'm generously giving you $1,000. What vulgar people. Faced with their disgusting behavior, I grimaced. As I was considering how to respond, the man in the suit next to me began to shake his shoulders. Suddenly, he burst into laughter. Huh? Tyler uttered a deflated sound. Beside him, Mandy also looked perplexed. Sorry. It's just that you two seem so unaware of your circumstances, I couldn't help but laugh. The man wiped tears from his eyes and pulled out a business card holder. He handed them his card while introducing himself. Nice to meet you. I was indebted to the late President Reed. I am Lawyer Anderson. A lawyer? Mandy's voice was full of confusion. She hadn't expected a lawyer to be present, and Tyler also looked startled. Then, Lawyer Anderson dropped a bombshell that nearly made them jump. Tyler's mistress. Mandy Holmes, was it? You think you'll become the company president's wife, but that's a huge misunderstanding. The heir is the wife, he's unemployed. At Lawyer Anderson's words, both of their mouths dropped open in shock. Watching their stunned faces, I remembered something. When my father-in-law was still lucid in the hospital, he suddenly told me something. Stacy, divorce him after I'm gone. Tyler has been cheating. I was shocked by my father-in-law's words, but at the same time, it confirmed my suspicions. A few years ago, I found women's accessories and a hotel receipt in Tyler's bag. There was no way they were gifts for me, so I realized he had been cheating. The thought of divorce did cross my mind. But I couldn't leave Dan in the care of Tyler, who just flits about aimlessly. Besides, if we divorced, I would likely get custody, and Dan and Candace would be separated. Dan and Candace get along so well that I sometimes feel jealous. I didn't want to separate them, so I turned a blind eye to the affair. At that time, I had no idea that Mandy was the other woman. And it seemed Dan didn't know much about Tyler's affair partner either. When I told him, Dan looked surprised for a moment and then let out a big sigh. I never meant to make life difficult for you, Stacy. No, it's not just for our daughter. I didn't want to be separated from you either. I love you just as much as Candace does. Dan smiled, tears welling up in his eyes. And then he made a determined expression and said something even more surprising. If it's all right with you, Stacy, I want to leave everything to you. What? I don't want him to have my estate. It seemed that just as I had become disillusioned with Tyler, Dan had long since given up on him. Oh, Dan, I don't need the inheritance. Please, just stay healthy for as long as you can. But it appeared that Dan had already been making preparations. After he passed away, when I contacted lawyer Anderson for various procedures, he told me that Dan had prepared a will leaving everything to me. So, all of President Reed's company and estate will belong to you, Stacy. In front of the two of them, lawyer Anderson placed the will Dan had prepared. For safety, the will they were given was a copy. And soon, the reason for the copy became apparent. I will never accept this. No sooner had he shouted this than Tyler tore the will in half. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief that I had made a copy. Handing over the company means you're becoming the president, right? I'm supposed to be the next president. And you're just a housewife. Sure, you worked at Dad's company, but just as a part-timer, you can't be a president. I almost blurted out how could he not know, but instead, I kept my cool and informed him of what he didn't know. Just a part-timer? That's not true. I am the head of the secretarial department. After our marriage, I began working at Dan's company. Initially, as Tyler said, I was a part-timer. But I loved working and dedicated myself to gaining experience at the company. My efforts were recognized, and I was promoted to full-time employee. After becoming full-time, I steadily climbed the ranks and now head the secretarial department. Our department supports the busy president. I have watched the president's work up close for many years. Moreover, Dan had been planning to make me his successor, allowing me to gain experience quietly. Before passing, Dan had already made arrangements with the executives. The next president won't be you, who just idly played around without making any effort. But me, who has continuously worked hard. Lawyer Anderson nodded in agreement. The official procedures are already complete. The only ones who believe you are going to be the next president are the two of you. Tyler's face gradually lost its vitality. He glanced around, then looked down at the torn will on the table and stared at a particular line. That was a line of rejection from Dan to his son. I will not pass on any of my estate to Tyler, my only blood relative. It takes a lot to disinherit a son. Tyler had lived selfishly enough to drive his father to do this. This outcome was Tyler's own doing. I returned the $1,000 that had been thrown at me earlier to the two pale-faced people. You two will be struggling for money now, won't you? Tyler won't become the next president. And since you'll be divorced and thrown out of this house, you'll lose everything. So here, take this back. Use it for your living expenses. At my words, Mandy's face turned red with anger and she shouted. This has to be a joke. I will never accept this. She violently slapped away my hand trying to return the $1,000. Furious, she turned to lawyer Anderson, ready to pounce. Tyler is the only blood relative. He's supposed to inherit the company. There's no way I'll allow her to take over the company and the entire estate. Mandy's face was red with rage, steam almost coming out of her head. Lawyer Anderson looked at her with disdain. You say you won't allow it, but you two are the only ones who don't accept it. The legal procedures have been followed. And the company's executives unanimously support Stacy's appointment as president. I also think Stacy should be the president. As he said this, lawyer Anderson glanced at Tyler. I also serve as the company's legal advisor. Tyler, have you ever met with me even once? No, you haven't? You mistook me for Stacy's affair partner, after all. Lawyer Anderson sighed heavily. If you had been seriously preparing to be the next president, you would have met me many times. The idea that you, who have never undergone any presidential training, could become the next president is utterly ridiculous. If that were to happen, the company President Reed left would be ruined. I'm not a business manager, but even I understand that much. I was slightly surprised by Lawyer Anderson's frank words. When I glanced at him, I could see a trace of anger on his face. Lawyer Anderson had been greatly helped by Dan in the past, when he was struggling with his newly established law office. Dan gave him work to keep his business afloat. Later, he was appointed the company's legal advisor, and he said he owed Dan a debt he could never repay. It seemed that Lawyer Anderson felt anger towards Tyler for continuously disregarding Dan. Tyler, utterly confronted by the harsh reality from Lawyer Anderson, sat weakly, slumped in his chair, his face turning paper white. You. Mandy, still not satisfied, made to grab at Lawyer Anderson. I caught her hand to stop her. Let go of me. You can't even train your husband, you loser. Don't touch me. I didn't respond to her vulgar words and simply stated the facts calmly. If you try to harm this person in any way, the company staff waiting outside will come running. What? When did they? For this discussion, the executive suggested having a third party present in case of any incidents. The company staff I asked for help are skilled in martial arts like karate and judo, and they are quite capable. After the two entered the house, I had them secretly wait in front of the house. When I mentioned this, Mandy's face paled, and she sat down quietly. It seemed she realized she was outmatched. Seeing the loss of their initial bravado, I decided to deliver the final blow. I will be filing for damages against both of you. I've already started discussing this with Lawyer Anderson. The mention of damages made the two of them look up sharply. Then, Mandy tried to cling to me. I'm sorry. Please, I beg you, not that. I truly regret it. I'll apologize as much as you want until you feel satisfied. Then you'll forgive me, right? After all, we're best friends, aren't we? I brushed off Mandy's hands trying to cling to me and replied in a cold voice. No, we are done. I refuse to be friends with someone who would betray me for money and steal someone's husband. It's disgusting, so don't ever pretend to be my friend again. At that moment, Mandy's face showed utter despair. And then Tyler suddenly prostrated himself on the ground, astonishing me with his audacious statement. I'm sorry for everything. Let's start over. What? It would be cruel to Candace if we divorced, right? Hearing Tyler use our daughter as an excuse, I felt a surge of anger. How could he be so selfish? Candace asks every day, when will you divorce Daddy? What? She's already 8 years old. She's not an ignorant child. She has long been disillusioned with you because you've neglected both her and Dan. Yes, like Dan and me, Candace had also lost affection for the selfish Tyler. She had often told me how difficult it was and wished for a quick divorce. It took a while, but I was finally able to fulfill Candace's wish. You no longer have a family. Those who were your family have all given up on you. I will divorce you, so live happily with Mandy. Wasn't that your wish? These words seemed to be the last straw, and Tyler collapsed in despair. Mandy also sat down on the floor, covered her face with her hands, and sobbed. Later, I tried to evict them from the house, but they were too busy despairing and crying to leave. So, I asked the company staff who were waiting outside for help. And they managed to evict them from the house. This house, too, was left to me by Dan. The property is already in my name, and it doesn't belong to those two anymore. I plan to continue living here with the memories of Dan and my beloved daughter. Thanks to lawyer Anderson, I was able to complete all the procedures for the damage claims without any issues. Tyler had to sell his belongings and even borrow from a consumer finance company because he couldn't cover the amount. I wonder what kind of shady consumer finance company would lend money to Tyler, who has no solid work history. However, as long as he pays the damages properly, it doesn't matter to me. Mandy exhausted her savings to pay the damages and tried to borrow from friends. However, when her friends learned of the affair, they all cut ties with her. Among them were friends we had in common. They were all disgusted with Mandy and concerned for me. According to what those friends told me, Tyler, having no money and nowhere else to go, had moved into Mandy's house. However, Mandy blamed Tyler for her situation and they had a massive fight, which led to neighbors calling the police. In the end, Tyler was kicked out by Mandy, and I don't know what became of him afterward. Whatever he does, it no longer concerns me. Mandy, due to paying off her damages, fell into financial hardship and turned to the same shady consumer finance company as Tyler. Her future, like Tyler's, will likely be miserable. Meanwhile, I've been appointed as the president of the company Dan left me, and I lead a busy life. Though Dan had trained me, the job of president is quite challenging. I manage to get by with support from other employees. What soothes my hectic days is my dear daughter. Mommy, welcome home. Good job at work today. I'm home, Candace. Thank you for welcoming me. Are you hungry? Today, I'll make your favorite pasta.
Yay!
I love your pasta, Mom. Just seeing Candace's smile makes all the fatigue vanish. Though tough days lie ahead, I'm sure I'll be fine as long as I have Candace. And, watching over us from heaven, I believe Dan is there too. I intend to do everything I can to make him rest easy, knowing he can trust me to manage everything he left behind.